Big Ten. At least we got that going for us. This week, of course, we have Penn State and Michigan State coming up, which is really a game of local interest because it's Michigan State, and they already had the 6 wins, so it's really not that important. But this past weekend, Iowa, Ohio State, Peter, take it away. Go ahead and
I have one bone to pick. Kirk Ferentz had the ball, tie game with about a minute left at his own 35-yard line. He needs the ball twice, takes it to overtime. And the overtime, he gets sacked 4 times, and he's out of field goal range. Well, not him, but his quarterback, obviously. And I just think it was such a weak play. You go to play to win the game. When you tell your players that, we're willing to delay the win, I mean, it just sends the wrong message.
A bit of good defense finally in the overtime session. And, they won. They're going to the Rose Bowl, assuming the BCS selection committee doesn't do anything weird. But not a fantastic team, Ohio State, just a team that was good enough to win the Big Ten this year.
And, of course, Iowa either. Iowa went out a whole lot of times earlier in the season before it all kind of fell apart. And, of course, across the nation, one shocking upset was Stanford's complete demolition.
For the second week in a row of a
that's
top
true.
team.
That's true. Yeah. You wouldn't know anything about Oregon, right?
Who are they?
Jim Harbaugh shaking things up a little bit. Of course, overall, though, the BCS standings, not a whole lot different. You still see the top 5 solid as a rock. Florida, Alabama, Texas, TCU, Cincinnati. That SEC championship game we've been waiting for it so long, and it is here. We'll be here in 2 weeks, anyhow. And then, of course, in the spots 6 through 10, a little bit of changes going on. Boise State at 6, Georgia Tech at 7. They had that early loss in the season, bounced back nicely. LSU at 8, Pitt at number 9, and Ohio State at number 10. Not think a lot of is going to change this next week either. Non-conference matchups in the SEC, both Alabama and Florida have really, really poor opponents. Actually, the only ranked matchup, Peter, is Oregon and Arizona. Oregon's still in the driver's seat in the Pac-10. Does Oregon lose?
I don't think so. And if Michigan fans want hope, they should look at the Oregon offense, because that's basically what Rich Rodriguez hopes this offense can be in, next year, I guess. But Jeremiah Masoli is a great dual threat quarterback, and he's really the ideal quarterback for such a system that Rich Rodriguez has installed. So watch the Oregon game after the Ohio State game. You might be really impressed with what you see.
You might be really impressed with what you say. A strong...
Assuming they win. Obviously, if they get shut out by the Arizona Wildcats.
So they might not be impressed, too.
It's probable they'll be impressive, but it's also possible that they will not be impressive.
There we go.
Ergo ipso facto.
A little bit of hemming and hawing here. Jim Harbaugh has some connections to the University of Michigan, I've been told.
Yeah, the
Scott.
Michigan quarterback, obviously, back in the day, burned a couple bridges a year or two ago, or whenever it was.
Right.
But Stanford's legitimately a pretty good team this year. They have a fantastic running back. I can't remember his name.
Legitimately pretty good.
I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but this is a team who, they beat Oregon last week, and then they beat USC. But, gosh, it's interesting to talk about Stanford. I want to talk about USC, though. How can a team look so bad? They're USC. They're always so dominant. Even if they look bad, they always seem to win somehow. They hadn't lost a game by more than 7 in the past 8 losses, I think, before losing to Oregon and Stanford solidly. So it's just so confusing as a college football fan to see USC getting beaten soundly.
Well, I'm gonna quote USC senior safety Taylor Mazier, one of the best players in the nation. He says, "It's very disappointing. It's almost sickening to be a senior and leave a legacy like this. You know you have a solid program when 3 losses makes you sickening. A sickening legacy."
Well, we already established that the reason USC lost to Oregon was that the Duck rode a motorcycle onto the field. And when that happens, you can't not win. Anyway, we need to go into commercial break. Coming back on the other side, the game is this weekend. We're all really looking forward to it. Welcome back to Varsity Blues. Peter Saul, Scott Wagner, Alex Prasad. Little
Switching
wrinkle
the direction
there in the Varsity Blue offense. And perhaps not television boxes on our heads, but paper bags for this game coming up this weekend. Of course, it's not a great time to be a Michigan football fan. One of our illustrious alums.
One of the best.
Adam Wallace,
certainly.
who is now an employee of ESPN, felt compelled to write a letter to the show, which I am now compelled to tell you about. Of course, we can't read the whole thing, Adam. I apologize profusely, but his thesis statement is as follows. I cannot help but think that Rich Rodriguez is not the right person to lead this program. He makes some very good points. Only 22 months ago, Michigan took down Tim Tebow. Why didn't Rich Rodriguez keep Ryan Mallett? The whole Justin Boren incident. Teams have been young in the past. 2004 was a team that was very young. You lost Chris Perry, you lost John Navarre, Mike Hart, Chad Henne step in, Jake Long steps in, team goes to the Rose Bowl. And of course, other things. There's Adam with his WOLVs. What do you know? The defense troubles, they're not a lack of talent. That's a good point. Just missed tackles and missed assignments that we talked about. And then finally, Mike Barwis. Yeah, that conditioning's really kicking in there, guys. 99-14 in the last couple of games in the second half. Let's take a couple of these arguments and dissect them a little bit. First, Rich Rodriguez is not the right man for the job, Peter. That ship is already sailed, right? I mean, can we write this argument off as a moot point at this point in time?
The Michigan man argument, I think it's absurd. Is that what you're asking?
I mean, well, yeah, that's a good point. But also, Scott, 2 years in, we've said this 100 times, but even if he's not the right guy, you have to at least see it through.
You can't fire someone after 2 years. You talk about the upheaval of the system. You can't give someone that short of a leash and suddenly let him off. Whether he's going to be good or not is still up for debate. But the problems you can cause with the system when you only have someone in there for 2 years can just wreak total havoc. You just can't do that.
Well, I maybe will argue for the devil a bit here. Paul Johnson, Georgia Tech, as we saw, ranked number 7 in the BCS right now. He came to Georgia Tech 2 years ago, established a completely new triple option offense. They're a top 10 team headed to BCS Bowl this year.
And actually, a good point about that, too, is an analogy to Ryan Mallett. I forget Georgia Tech's quarterback's name, but he said that had he known going into his college career that he would end up running the veer his last couple of years at Georgia Tech, he would have transferred immediately. He would not have gone there.
Which is amazing. Yeah, Josh Nesbitt is his name. He's a fantastic veer quarterback. So
right.
it's funny that
he completes about one pass a game, usually for 5 yards.
Right,
yeah.
and usually one of them goes for an interception as well. So we're running out of time here. Guys, we have to talk about the Ohio State game. We are compelled to. Predictions, we'll start with you, Peter. I mean, will Michigan lose by 20 or 30? And that's a legitimate answer question.
Well, I believe the Vegas spread is 15 or so, and I'll say, why not? Michigan will beat the spread. They lose by 10.
10?
Really? I mean, I would like to be that optimistic, Scott.
Yeah, I'm not that optimistic. 15 seems pretty kind. Michigan loses to Illinois by 20. I have a hard time seeing them sticking close with Ohio State, even though if it's a rivalry game at home. You say, throw the record books out the window. Not in this one.
All right. Well, we will refrain from making predictions. That's all for us on Varsity Blue this time. We'll see you again for the bowl special. Hopefully, we'll be talking about a Michigan bowl game for the first time in our Varsity Blue.
Whoa.
See you next week.
Absurd.